I want to talk about Barack Obama and his speech to the convention. But I first want to apologize for my $5 eyeglasses and my self inflicted haircut. As for the eyeglasses, I have in the past always bought expensive ones and I always break them or lose them. So I've squandered hundreds and hundreds of dollars on eyeglasses. So I thought maybe I would just cool it. As for the haircut, I continue with the vain faith that I can somehow learn how to cut my own hair. But after a little bit of success, I continue until finally it's a butcher job. So put all that aside if you can, and just consider Barack Obama's speech. Very fine speech, as described by an historian in the New York Times, Jeremiad, where Obama has finally put aside, this healer of the nation facade or persona, where he invites everybody for a beer or for a cup of coffee or for tea and finger sandwiches, and all the people who spend all of their waking minutes and maybe their dreaming time too in bringing about his destruction, bringing about the destruction of the society, whom he treated with such respect as if they represented some legitimate feelings, when it's not about feelings at all. It's a death cult movement, corporatist fascism, that, like all fascism, has at its heart the idea that opponents are enemies and to be destroyed, and that one is to play out the string to the zero-sum ultimate result, meaning a slave society in which people are constantly poor, in debt, ignorant, with no opportunity to rise, while all the great wealth of the country is enjoyed and manipulated by a very small elite of those who have joined the corporatist class or are inheritors of great wealth, one way or the other. Barack Obama encouraged young people to vote, telling them that they are depending upon your cynicism. But what engendered more cynicism than that day that you introduced Timothy Geithner as the Treasury Secretary? All those people like me who wept at your election and couldn't wait for you to be president because of your brilliance and your elegance and your charm and your deep intelligence and your ability to deliver speeches, restoring pride in the country as a legitimate leader. And the first thing you did after being unable to buy your kids a dog, which was a sure sign of problems to come, was to introduce that weasel, that twerp, that non-entity, Timothy Geithner, and to even bother to say the most outrageous thing you may have said in your entire term, that he was the only candidate who could seriously be considered for the position. So after you were elected for change, it turns out you had made some sort of a deal with the corporatists, and there were to be no Wall Street financiers who had wrecked the economy who were going to be brought to justice. There were to be no bankers who were going to be prosecuted for the real estate fiasco. There were to be no war criminals and torturers on a high level who were going to be judged to reestablish American prestige. And most importantly, you immediately betrayed the economic interests of all those people who had suffered so unjustly. And then you proceeded for 8 years to make fine speeches. You made sure that there was no Medicare for all or single payer. Everything was meliorist. And you were always shaking hands with people who dreamt of your death. As if you still didn't understand that this wasn't the 70s and we weren't going to just have a nice little talk and, argue, debate, and then everyone was going to, carry on business as usual. No, this is where it was always heading. And you're the only person in the country who didn't seem to see that. You were so arrogant as to think that you could persuade them. There was no persuading them. They wanted to destroy, and they have. And here you are, after 8 years of supreme power in which you exercised none. Now you make a nice speech about it, about how we have to see them for what they are, enemies who are trying to destroy the Republic. Once again, you have proven what fine speeches you make. But I admire it, but it may as well just be Charles Dickens reading his works on a tour in the United States. It has no impact. What has an impact is whether or not the Postal Service gets those ballots in. And you have nothing to do with that. The people who matter are people who don't at all buy into your corporatist, pro-bank, pro-Wall Street, pro-elite meliorism. The people who matter are Bernie Sanders, who got, of course, railroaded out of the nomination by the other mediocrity, Joe Biden. The people who matter are AOC. The people who matter are Martin Gugino, who walked the walk. The people who matter are the young people who are in the streets. And Mr. former Vice President Obama, you're not with them. You're with Clinton. You're with Bill Clinton. You're with Hillary Clinton. And now you're with Biden. Meanwhile, the people with the spades, the pikes, the pickaxes, they're the ones who are digging. And you're just vacationing in Martha's Vineyard and writing elegant speeches. I am not impressed. I cannot hear it anymore. There's probably going to be some kind of a revolution, and you'll be remembered as, well, what I call you, the fop.